So the other day somebody posted a question on one of my Garageband videos asking where the orchestral instruments were, and the answer is they're actually built into Garageband underneath the keyboard banner. So when you first open up a sound, go to More Sounds and a list appears showing some very familiar looking instruments from the orchestra. So we've got some woodwind here, the brass, and you've got the strings, Glockenspiel, and then you get all of your guitars and bass guitars here as well, in addition to some world instruments. If you haven't got those, you can go online and download them. You can go to Sound Library. It's actually this button here. If I just click on that, you can download more things using the Sound Library. So just returning to the menu here, if I go to the flute, this is a very usable sound indeed. In a mix, that will sound pretty realistic, I mean, if not already. Now, the clarinet is also very good. And it responds very well to staccato notes. Clarinet has quite a few different articulation ways of playing, and actually it responds pretty well to legato and staccato playing. So, oboe, again, this is what the orchestra tunes to, albeit without vibrato when it's tuning up, but you can get some really lyrical sounds from this. Now the bassoon, one of the coolest instruments ever. That's really good. So we also got a French horn, which is pretty realistic. Now, don't forget, I'm playing these sounds on the inbuilt keyboard here, so I'm by no means getting the best out of these sounds. There's my attempt at Mozart's horn concerto. So, brass ensemble, the next one down. This gives you a mix of trumpets, trombones, tubas. The difference with this is that it's not so touch sensitive as the other instruments. If I turn the velocity down, I'm actually getting the same sound but quieter. But you know, hey ho, it's meant for putting parts in. And of course you can select different octaves. Notice you can't go any further than that because actually it becomes unrealistic. Now if I just go back to the flute, for example, yes, you can't select a sound below middle C because that's the range of a flute. So they've actually thought very carefully about this. And they've actually used a lot of different samples for different ranges, so it sounds realistic across its entire range. So after brass ensemble, we've got Glockenspiel. Now, this is a really useful thing for brightening up. Maybe if it's a brass line or something, you can double it on the Glockenspiel to really bring that brass line alive. It's a bit like using a tambourine in percussion ensemble when you've got shakers. Suddenly, tambourine just lifts the profile of the entire percussion section. Phoenix Nights. But actually the sound is very realistic. Now the strings and all the guitars are now available to play on the keyboard. So if you are a keyboard player, you can get all of these sounds instead of having to, with the strings, particularly with the solo strings, it's a little bit of a struggle to play them unless you're a string player, and it's quite difficult to get the notes right. But here we go, strings pizzicato. I mean, that's pretty good, really. You know, and it's also clever enough that if you have the sound low, you're only going to get double basses and cellos down here. But there, at that C, the C below middle C, the viola suddenly kicks in. And then we've got the violin. So this has been very carefully built, and I'm sure you'll agree it sounds absolutely excellent. Now we've got strings staccato as well, and again the same rules apply. The samples change according to the octave. And then we have strings sustain, or strings legato, if you're going to carry on the nomenclature here. Yeah, great. Now we have also some world instruments here. If we go to the bottom, we've got the sort of Chinese and Japanese traditional instruments. I mean, the koto sounds really nice. Masses. Now you can also have some vibrato here. And with all of these sounds, you do get some basic controls that are pertinent to the sound in question. So here we've got the resonance control, which really can lift the output of this a bit. With the Chinese one, it's even stronger. Now, remember that I'm playing these sounds on the internal keyboard. I'm going to be demonstrating the camera kit and how to hook a keyboard up to this, because it really does increase the level of refinement and detail that you can get out of these already fantastic sounds. Now, just looking at we've got a couple of other things like the erhu, this sort of Middle Eastern instrument. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Now we have things like pitch control that are available on many of the instruments here. So also we've got guitars and basses that can be played by the keyboard. Now with the P bass, for example, we have the bottom E, which is the lowest note on a 4-string bass. But you have some extra notes underneath it, and you can't quite get the 5-string bottom B, but you can get the C just above it. So you can get some lower sounds using this where you couldn't actually get it with the fretboard if you looked at the guitar interface that's also built into Garageband. Likewise, the guitars, you can play some pretty nice stuff here with as well, because you have the pitch bend for string changes. So. Now, likewise, you can get a bottom C on your guitar. So if you're sort of, into your sort of new metal or new rock sort of stuff, you can get those lower. Now we also have a few controls again here that are pertinent to the sound, including your gain control. So hard rock can become slightly less hard if you turn the gain down. Becomes a bit more crunchy. A common guitar effect, tremolo, and a treble control, which just literally deals with the high end only. And then a reverb. So there we go. There are a few of the sounds available here. Upright bass is a nice one as well, and this is much easier to play than the upright bass that uses the neck to play the notes. That's me doing the hi-hats in the background, not the drums on here. So Now, with all of these things, you have, some of them have a pitch control where you can actually adjust the pitch while you're playing. Now, this is obviously a slight bug in the system in that you can't do that on here, even though you can select the pitch. The reason for that is that these are genuine sounds that they're trying to keep actually genuine without sort of making them sound really too false. Now, with the strings, however, you can do this, because the nature of a string instrument is that its pitch is continuously variable. However, it doesn't sound all that realistic. And also, when you record this, although the pitch control will be stored, you can't adjust it afterwards. So if I just press record on here, there's a sort of drum rhythm in the background that I had going earlier. So if I go back to my main page and click edit, you can see that there's only one note showing with no other way of varying your pitch control at all. So even if I click on that, it'll only give me the 4 options. It'll give me a volume control, but it won't allow me to change the pitch. So if I play it back to the beginning, you'll hear the pitch changes, but you can't adjust them. But, you know, it's a free bit of software. You just, you perform the best you can. Besides which, you can set multi-track recording up on this. So you can try it a few times and then pick the take that you like. So there we go. There it is. There is an introduction to the other sounds available on GarageBand.